Welcome into the Year in Review special. My name is Brian Glenn. Thanks so much for joining us right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. 2021 was a year like we never expected. Stories like immigration, COVID, foreign policy, and yes, the economy. Today's show, we've got special guests, Kari Lake, gubernatorial candidate out of Arizona. We got a Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, will join us as well. Scott Pressler has a major announcement on this show. And then later, we are joined by the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, will join us to talk about this past year. And I've got some questions for him as well. But first up, Big Tech took on conservative viewpoints last year. Senior Trump advisor Jason Miller and founder of Gettr, social media platform, is taking on that challenge and giving conservatives a new platform to voice their opinions. I had a chance to sit down and talk to him about that and a whole lot more. Jason Miller, CEO of Gettr. Let's get right into it. Walk us back earlier this year as we kind of crawled out of the January 6th controversy, which then social media had a meltdown and wanted to silence just about any supporter of President Trump. How did Gettr get off the ground? And let's talk about how significant it is right now in this era that we live in of cancel culture.
Well, Brian, thank you very much. And really, cancel culture and what we saw with the political discrimination, to be clear, that's what it is. It's political discrimination from big tech, from big media. And I think what we've seen of that over the last year and a half has been the worst ever in U.S. history. Go back to early 2020 for a moment when we talk about the origins of COVID and people being sentenced to digital jail simply for saying the virus came from a lab in Wuhan, which, spoiler alert, it did. Then we moved into the summer. Obviously, people would get vanquished simply for criticizing Dr. Anthony Fauci. But then the single most egregious example of political discrimination in U.S. political history was the silencing of the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. And just to be clear on this, that post-election polling shows that 1 out of every 6 Biden voter would have considered changing their vote if they knew about the family grift and corruption that has been going on for decades, not just with Hunter, but with Frank and James, Joe's 2 lobbyist brothers, and just the whole culture of grift and corruption, the 10% for the big guy, the dealings with the Chinese, all this. So really, Gettr ultimately really sprung up right around from started getting to work on right in that kind of October fall timeframe as we saw what was happening with the Hunter scandal. But then after January 6th, where literally the companies colluded to deplatform a sitting president of the United States is just remarkable. It was just so mind-blowing that they would do that we knew there had to be another platform. So we kicked off on July 4th. We're the fastest ever social media platform to 1 million users, fastest ever to 2 million users. Now we're the fastest ever to 3 million users globally. So it's very exciting. A lot of that growth is also tracked with some of the new features that we've added. So we started off with more of the longer posts, longer videos. Now with our live streaming feature that we're expanding and rolling out to more and more users, allowing people to do live streams. As we saw just recently in France, for example, Eric Zemmour, who's the leading conservative candidate for president, they live streamed his big rally in Paris, which got tons of eyeballs, a lot of people from around the world really that are watching. But as we round the corner, and you make a really important point about kind of what's next for Gettr, right around February 1st, we're going to be unleashing G-Vision, which is our competitor to Instagram Reels or Facebook Stories, kind of the short video concept, which is going to help bring us in an entire new user base, a younger demo, because video is everything. I mean, that's why we're doing this on video, right? Content-wise, video is king. But here's the big thing coming up middle of next year, right around 4th of July, our 1-year anniversary. We're going to be launching Gettr Pay, not just a competitor to Apple Pay and Alipay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, et cetera, but it's going to have, it's going to be a 2-coin ecosystem where we're combining crypto and blockchain along with social media. And we have some really exciting things in some ways that people are going to be able to make some good money. So that is kind of in a nutshell how Gettr started, where we're going this next year, and we're glad to have you along for the ride.
That's remarkable. I did not think we'd even be discussing that type of services from Gettr, but that's big news. I like that. Okay, so let's move it. Let's think 2020 primaries, 2022 primaries rather. How important is a platform like Gettr. I know Margie Taylor Greene and others really push people to Gettr to get their message out. How instrumental is it that you guys are fully engaged in these elections coming up?
So this is a really important question, Brian. I'm glad that you bring it up because, again, think globally here for a moment. Our U.S. user base is about 37%. And obviously the other 63 is from around the world. But this is so critical because there are a lot of elections that are coming up in 2022. We have primary season that's coming up in the US. We also have the midterms in the fall where I know this might sound crazy, but we're going to be somewhere in that 1994, 2010 tidal wave type frame. I've heard people throw out there, and again, this is a crazy number, 60 seat pickup is probably the low hanging fruit. There are going to be people who wake up the day next November and be like, wait, I'm going to Congress. I mean, we could see like 80, 90, 100 seats just because of the bottom has fallen out. Right now, the generic ballot on Republicans versus Democrats, this is ABC, fake news ABC, not even say like, Rasmussen or Fabrizio or McLaughlin or somebody who we like and trust, or Trafalgar. Literally, ABC has the highest delta right now of Republicans leading Democrats on the generic ballot. If they're saying this a year out, look, it's going to be landslide city. Anyways, but here's the point. We need to make sure the reason why Gettr is important, because it's a matter of when, not if, folks like yourself, anyone watching this, get deplatformed or sent to digital jail or get put algorithm out of existence or sent to some kind of timeout or shadow banned for expressing your political viewpoints. The primary is important, but the midterms next November are important. Here's the thing. Here's why I started off by saying think globally. You have presidential elections in the Philippines in 2022, Brazil, where President Jair Bolsonaro is on Gettr, as well as his adult sons, Flavio, Carlos, and Eduardo. We also have the presidential election in France coming up in May, where Eric Zemmour, the leading conservative candidate, is on Gettr and very active. And so you also have Hungary, where Viktor Orban, he's not yet on Gettr, but we're starting to sign up a lot of people in Hungary. Those elections are coming up. Facebook has already announced that their global, I think they call it the Global Anti-Misinformation Board or Council, effectively the election influencers. I mean, let's just call a spade for a spade. They're the people who go in and manipulate elections to make sure that certain people have a voice and certain people are discriminated against politically, that they are targeting these countries that have big elections in 2022. So if they don't like you, hey, get ready for a digital jail or algorithm city. So it's not just here in the US, but it's globally. We have to have this free speech platform.
All right, I'll leave you with this. How can people, if they've never heard of Gettr for whatever reason, they've been living under a rock the last year or so, how do they download the app and how do they follow you?
So it's super, super easy. If you're on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, simply type in Gettr, Gettr, or you can go to the Gettr the Gettr website, gettr.com, sign up that way. It's super easy, take you less than a minute to get it done. You can follow me at Jason Miller in DC, even though I'm rarely in DC these days. I'm here in our main office in New York. But at Jason Miller in DC is where you can follow me and find what I'm saying. We'd love to have you and join the community to be a part of this experience. And thank you, Brian, so much for what you're doing.
No, thank you. You've been a great partner with Right Side throughout the launch and as we covered the Trump rally. So we really appreciate your involvement in all of that. So we wish you well, all the best. Once again, go download Gettr and get it on your phone and stay in touch with what's going on in the world. Thank you so much, Jason Miller.
Thank you, sir.
America first. We often heard that phrase from President Trump and other elected officials, but what does it really mean? I had a chance to sit down with Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida to talk about the term America First and his thoughts on the 22 primaries. Joining us now to talk about what it means to be an American First candidate is Matt Gaetz himself from District 1 there in Florida. You know, when you think about it, Matt, about being an America First politician, which we know we don't even like to say that word, but that's what it is. What does it mean to be an America First politician?
America First means no more managed American decline. It means we don't sell out to the foreign interests abroad or the special interests here at home. Restricted immigration, focused foreign policy and trade deals that are actually intended to benefit the workers in our country, not to build up the middle class over in the Middle Kingdom in China. One of my good friends, Louis Gohmert, says, we don't have to pay other countries foreign aid to hate us. They'll probably do it for free. And my expectation is that an America First view of our domestic policy and foreign policy can lead to the greatest days for our country still to come. I serve with people in the Congress, unfortunately, who I really believe root for American decline. Certainly their actions facilitate American decline. And I think America First also has an optimism rooted inside of it, where we don't all have to sit around and litigate our grievances with one another and our frailties, but we are unified in the proposition that we are all united with a great privilege to call ourselves Americans, to be one another's fellow Americans, and to embrace the policies that build up this great nation to the prominence that we should have leading into this next century.
Yeah, because this next election is very crucial. Now, you and Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim Jordan, the three of you guys have really been the tip of the spear for this kind of new generation of what it means to be a conservative. But you were also public enemy #1 from the mainstream media. They see you as a big threat to democracy, and they've really put an arrow and an X on your back. How do you deal with all that criticism coming from not only the media, but sadly, Matt, within our own party?
The biggest threat to our democracy is the corrupt corporate media in unity of purpose with entities in our government that harm Americans and that target and politicize the Justice Department, the FBI, against President Trump, against a lot of these January 6 detainees, and people like Michael Flynn, Steve Bannon. The list goes on. I am grateful to serve alongside folks like Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jody Heiss in Georgia, Madison Cawthorn in North Carolina, Lauren Boebert. But one thing that unifies this group of folks is that they're after us. They're coming for us because they know we're coming for them on behalf of our people. And in Washington, D.C., there's so much corruption. There's so much effort to try to compromise people and to get them away from the promises that were made to our voters. And it takes that stalwart effort. It takes that firebrand attitude sometimes to continue to advance our battles. And increasingly, you're right, we face forces not just in the Democrat Party, but in the Republican Party that want to reconstitute the establishment around the America Last principles that would invade every foreign country and invite every illegal immigrant across our border and would really disadvantage the working people of America with trade deals that benefit other nations, not ours.
You said something earlier that really struck a chord with me, and I think it can resonate amongst a lot of independents. You brought up Russia and Ukraine, and you wish our president and our administration would focus more on our southern border than some border thousands of miles away from here that really doesn't directly affect the American people. Can you elaborate on that real quickly?
Most Americans think it's ridiculous that we would send troops to oceans away, to faraway lands, to defend the borders of other nations when we haven't taken every serious effort to secure our own border. Only a joke of a country would care about the borders of other nations before caring about our own border. I don't want to start World War III with Vladimir Putin. I certainly don't want that to occur over the eastern Ukraine, where you've got a lot of ethnic Russians, a lot of people who speak Russian, a lot of voters there who vote for the pro-Russian candidates in elections. And so this strikes me really as something for Europe to sort out, not something that should excessively involve the time, treasure, blood, and effort of Americans.
Well, Matt Gaetz, the term firebrand definitely describes you. If someone needs to get more of Matt Gaetz, what's the best place to watch this podcast you have that's really blowing up the social media airwaves?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, my podcast is Firebrand. Folks can get it on any podcast listening platform and also on Rumble, a place that I love watching me some Right Side Broadcasting Network as well. So folks can get on Rumble, watch Right Side, watch a little Firebrand, and always we encourage folks to join the conversation on social media as well. I'm on Twitter at Rep Matt Gaetz and at Matt Gaetz, and that way we can continue to amplify these positive populist messages that have been successful at realigning our politics, attracting those independents, and then being worthy of victory. You know, Brian, I hear so many Republicans puffing their chests, talking about how great the polling looks for us in this next election, and obviously Joe Biden is an adult person leading an even more adult political movement, but we have to be worthy of that victory. And that means defining what we will do for people to help our economy, to help our workers, and to help ensure that we have border integrity and really the appropriate focus as America addresses the world. They wanted to criticize Trump all the time for being soft on Putin, but if you check the scorecard, Putin invaded the Ukraine under Obama, didn't do so under Trump, and now may do so under Joe Biden. So what does that really say about who is advancing America's interests and who simply projected weakness?
The great Matt Gaetz, and of course you can check him out on Firebrand. Hey, late Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year, and say hello to your beautiful wife. We appreciate you guys' involvement right here at the network.
Thank you so much. Ginger's a big fan of yours as well, and look forward to seeing you out on the trail soon, Brian.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You know, we've talked about great patriots across this network time and time again. Mike Lindell is definitely one of them. We wouldn't even be talking about election integrity if it wasn't for Mike Lindell. Now, he was almost cancel culture victim number one, as everyone went after him just from merely meeting with the president after the election. Well, now is the time for you to support him. Now that we're past the holidays, you might have gotten some gifts that you don't really want. Perhaps you want to take those back. Well, I encourage you to log on to MyPillow.com. That's MyPillow.com. Put that promo code RSBN at checkout, and you'll get up to 66% off your entire order. So if you didn't get those bed sheets, you didn't get those, the bathrobe, the towels, the slippers, the dog beds, simply go on to MyPillow.com, put that promo code RSBN at checkout, and you'll get up to 66% off your entire order. Now that we're past the holidays, shipping time should be a little shorter than they were before. So it's not too late to get those orders in and perhaps give a late Christmas gift on that. Go to MyPillow.com, go to MyStore.com as well. Thousands of products on there, and I've said this time and time again. If you don't have a flag in front of your home, your business, your office, go on to MyStore.com and pick up your patriotic flags and put them proudly in front of your home. MyPillow.com, MyStore.com, and in full transparency, portion of those proceeds goes right back to this network to help us provide the content we've been doing for several years now. So go to MyPillow.com. I am happy to spend a few minutes with our editor-in-chief, Grace Saldana, because she is responsible for all these wonderful newsletters that you've signed up for. These articles go out. Of course, you've seen her on our airways for several years now. So Grace, welcome to joining me on this kind of year-end review show. And I wanted to pick your brain at some of the stories that really stuck out to you this past year. And, what was that?
Yeah, well, thank you, Brian. I'm happy to be on this end of year review. I think this is such a cool segment that we're doing. And, I think to answer your question, the top story by far of this year has been Trump's launch of Trump Media and Technology Group and Truth Social. So, people want to see what Trump's next move is going to be. And those stories just have by far done better than everything else. And I think if you were to go the non-Trump related route, as far as what stories do the best, I would have to say that the vaccine protests have done the best by far. So those are the two hot topics right now. It's like, what's going to happen with Trump? Is he going to run in 2024? Is he going to be a media mogul? And what's going to happen with these vaccine mandates? So I think that pretty much encapsulates where our stories are going right now.
And when you kind of look at like the state of our economy right now and in the state of politics, you can only think that the Biden administration might even double down on a lot of the mandates and stuff as they see that it's not working. I've been watching, I always often say I watch MSNBC so you don't have to, and I get to hear the narratives that come out of there. So, what do you think's going to happen next year? I mean, do you see things getting worse as far as lockdowns and mandates, and How do you see it?
Yeah. Honestly, all of this has been unprecedented so far. So we can make our predictions, but if they'll come true, we don't know. But I know this might be a little bit outdated by the time this gets aired. But today, or last night, the Supreme Court announced that they're going to hear oral arguments to the vaccine mandates on January 7th. So that will be a huge case. And we wrote an article about this today. And our writer pointed out that the OSHA mandate is supposed to go into effect on January 10th. So the Supreme Court will hear arguments on the 7th, just 3 days before. So are they going to expedite that ruling? They could. But the fact that the Supreme Court is taking this up so quickly means that it is obviously a very anticipated decision. And I hope that they make the right call.
Agree on that. Okay, let's look back in this past year. Obviously, covering the Trump rallies has got to be one of the most pinnacle points in what we do here at Right Side. So any moments that have stood out to you as you stood on that media riser and you watched President Trump deliver his speech?
Yeah, I think my favorite moment of any rally by far is probably the Valdosta rally. And Valdosta was right in between the election, so November 2020 and January 6th. So that rally was so important because it showed America, it showed all the politicians, the mainstream media, everyone who's corrupt in this country that wants to get Trump out, that his supporters and Americans still want him to be in office. They believe he is the true president. So people started chanting "Fight for Trump" at that rally. And that was the first time they've ever seen that. And if you were there, you would hear the cheers. It was so loud. People were they were so excited, and they really wanted people to fight for Trump because at that time, I'm not saying now, Republicans weren't on board with fighting for Trump. And it was pretty much Trump and his legal team against everybody. So it was a crazy time, and I think that was the most memorable moment for me. But of course, I love all the Trump rallies. I think they're all spectacular in their own ways, and I really love getting to talk to the people on the ground. So
yeah, and of course, if I had one memory that really sticks out for me is January 20th on the inauguration day for President Biden. Of course, the day that America said goodbye to President Trump there at Joint Base Andrews. That was I don't know. It was a tough broadcast to get through. Okay, so if someone's watching us right now, Grace, and they say, wait a minute, they've got a newsletter. Like, I want to stay in touch of what's going on with Right Side because you and Alex and you've got just a tremendous staff of writers there.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of this newsletter? And walk us through like how often it's pushed out to our email. How's that work?
Yeah, sure. So we just started doing this newsletter just a few weeks ago. We do it every Wednesday, right now at least. We're just doing one a week. We don't want to overwhelm anyone with our brand new newsletter and, make you want to unsubscribe. So basically what this newsletter is, it's our top stories of the week. It's everything Trump related, everything Melania's new moves. She's really been in the spotlight lately. So we inform you on election integrity and anything relevant to you guys. Our main topics that we're covering right now, it's Trump, it's 2024, America First candidates, vaccine mandates, election integrity. So, we're covering all of those important topics, and that's what this newsletter is all about. So you guys can subscribe to it at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And then there's another / actually. So rsbnetwork.com/newsletter/
It's easy. And I think the one thing we want to point out, Grace, is it's free. Like, you don't have to pay anything for it.
Of course. Yeah, it's totally free. And you guys can unsubscribe anytime. You guys can let us know if you want more of these because we are going to start expanding what kinds of newsletters that we do. This is all we're just in our learning stages right now. We're just at the very beginning of this department for us. We have 10 writers who are writing part and full-time to bring you guys the news that's relevant to you because the mainstream media is not going to do it. And also we're getting censored every day on some of these big tech platforms. So this is the only way we have to communicate with you guys if we ever go dark. So,
and I've told you numerous times, you're doing a fantastic job. And like I said, things hit the news cycle and it's hours later, I check on my phone. It's like, oh, we've got an article on it already.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So I encourage everybody to do that. And of course they can go download our app as well, which is another great resource to see all this stuff.
Telegram.
Telegram. as we move to these primaries next year, that's going to be our focus. And like you said, it's getting behind these America First candidates, these people that, I spent a couple of days with Scott Pressler a week ago, and I'm telling you, there are some races in this country that we cannot just assume that conservatives are going to win for numerous reasons. So we'll be focusing on that. I know, Grace, you focus on that as well, and on your whole team that you're under. So I appreciate it. Before I let you go, big plans for the New Year's, and we're just a couple days away.
Well, I'm actually moving for New Year's, so I'm going to be out. I'm going to be packing boxes and stuff, but it's going to be an exciting move. I'm not leaving Florida though, so don't worry.
Well, that's good, because we need you in Florida for sure.
Yes, sir.
All right. And if people want to follow you on social media, particularly, let's give out your handles real quick.
Sure, you can find me everywhere at Grace Saldana. So it's GraceSaldana.
There you go. Well, we appreciate it. Happy New Year to you. And
Thank you,
hope you
Brian.
had a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yes, ma'am. We'll see you next time. Our next guest knows all too well about the destructive Biden administration and its policies. Attorney General from Texas, Ken Paxton, joining us to talk about a lot of issues that made the news cycle this past year. One of them being illegal immigration, the other one being the Texas Heartbeat Act, which is great. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But what a year it's been for you. I think you filed, 7 lawsuits against the Biden administration for a number of things.
Actually, 7 lawsuits on immigration. I think we're involved in about 22, 23 lawsuits with the Biden administration just since he was inaugurated. So it's pretty remarkable, because we thought when we were suing Obama, we were setting records. We were suing him once a month. Now we're suing the Biden administration is even more egregious. We're suing him about twice a month.
Yeah. Well, we've seen what those destructive policies are doing to Texans here, not just Texans, but all across this country. Let's start with immigration. Walk me back to the first lawsuit or the first plan of action to secure our border and protect Texans.
So on day one, the Biden administration, Joe Biden himself, came out and said, we are no longer deporting people for the first 100 days. This is in direct violation of federal law. So he looked at federal law and said, we don't, in the executive branch, we don't have to follow what was passed by Congress and signed by another president. We're just going to put aside as if we don't run by those laws. We're our own little monarchy. And so on day one, he announced that no longer they were going to deport anybody. You could stay. So we sued him on day 3. We got an injunction on day 6, and we ultimately won that lawsuit. But that did not stop them from continuing to invite people in and just transport them around the country. Of course, they aren't vaccinated. They aren't tested like the rest of us are required to do if we come into the country as American citizens, who won't be let into the country with COVID. If you're illegal, doesn't matter where you've come from, doesn't matter whether you have COVID or not, you're allowed in, and we're going to send you all over the country, particularly to Republican states, to spread COVID and then complain that we have too much COVID in the country because of Republican states.
Yeah. I just saw an article just today about the Omicron variant and how Houston is ground zero for that. And it's like the spiking city across the country, And we look at this and we go, okay, now we're into another variant of COVID. What type of lockdowns are we going to have? And I know that every Texan watching us right now can probably agree that we don't want lockdowns. You don't want lockdowns. It's been a part of your messaging from day one, really.
Well, so we've fought lockdown. The governor issued executive orders saying no more masks, no vaccine mandates. We've sued both state government entities, city councils and school boards. We've also sued the U.S. government, and we have so far 3 successful lawsuits going against the federal government, holding that back. We've got a case now in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. So, no, I think it ought to be an individual choice whether you want to have a vaccine or not. You make your own personal choice based on your health, your doctor's advice, and it should be up to the individual, not the federal government ordering you with no legal authority to do so. If they can do that, if the federal government can order you to do that, or even if a local government can do that, then we don't have a constitution. There's nothing they can't make you do.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of states out there right now that wish they had a fighter for their attorney general like we have here in Texas and Ken Paxton. So when you look at some other states, what do the AGs reach out to you for advice of what you're doing down here? I know you've had several senators and attorney generals go down to the border. What's some of the biggest concerns with them?
I think a lot of them don't realize the immigration issue is going to affect them because people are being transported in the middle of the night all over the country, particularly to other Republican states. So it will affect them. So I haven't had as much interest other than, say, Missouri and Louisiana, a few other states around here who have been involved in our immigration lawsuits, and we've joined them, they've joined us. They have been more interested in the vaccine mandate. And so that's been almost unanimous among Republican attorney generals and governors that we don't want the federal government making up new laws and controlling our lives in ways that the Constitution never envisioned.
Yeah. Let's go back to the border real quickly, the wall. We just put up another panel along the border there in Rio Grande City. What can we expect months moving forward? Would that wall continue, and if so, for how long?
Yeah, so we're funding that. Not federal government, the state government's funding that. So it's just a matter of whether the legislature will continue to put money into what the federal government should be putting money into. And as a matter of fact, the federal government did appropriate money through Congress to build the wall. The Biden administration said, no, we don't have to follow Congress or the appropriations process. We do what we want. We're not building that wall. We're going to waste the money. We're going to pay the contractor, but we're actually not going to do the work. That's illegal. That's a violation of federal law, but they've gotten away with it. We sued them. Missouri and Texas sued. And now they're talking like, oh, well, now we're going to use that money to do drainage issues and build, finish out some access roads and fill in some gaps. But they're doing as little as they possibly can while realizing that we're likely to win that lawsuit, and so they're trying to sort of mitigate their downside.
Yeah. Back on November 1st, we stood at the steps of the Supreme Court with you in the Texas Heartbeat Act. You were very instrumental behind that, and that a lot of pro-life movement appreciates the actions of the state of Texas. We took a very aggressive stance towards abortion. How do you rank that accomplishment in the list of things you've been able to have done? Is that up there near the top?
If it's not the number one, it's pretty darn close. To think about the consequence of that bill protecting human life once the heartbeat is detected, which is a clear sign of life, medically and logically. So to know that at this point we're saving probably well over 100 babies a day since that went into effect, and that we've had the ability to go defend that. The legislature passed it. I give them a lot of credit. I give the lieutenant governor and the governor and the speaker credit for getting it through, because it's significant. It will save literally over 100 babies a day. And so you add that up from the day it went into effect, September 1st, and the fact that we've kept that alive, so to speak, and kept that in place, we continue to save lives.
You were definitely a fighter in the pro-life movement. Okay, this past week, something happened, and I want you to explain it the best you can, that could dramatically change the landscape here in Texas politically.
So since almost the founding days of our country, the Attorney General has represented the state in civil cases, in criminal cases. We did appellate cases starting in 1875. In 1931, the governor appointed the prosecuting attorney out of the governor's office, and then in 1951, we were granted the authority to go after voter fraud, to prosecute voter fraud. So we've been doing just that thing, the voter fraud prosecution, since 1951. We've done it rather successfully in counties all over this state, trying to prevent voter fraud in this state. And I think it's made a significant difference in sending a message. If you commit voter fraud, you're at least going to, you at least may end up in court with us.
There's consequences for breaking the law.
Well, so the Court of Criminal Appeals, which had previously ruled another, couple decades ago, that we did have the authority to prosecute criminal cases through a statute passed by the legislature in 1951, and so did the Texas Supreme Court. They overruled themselves. They overruled the Texas Supreme Court. They overruled a provision in the Constitution, literally, and they overruled what the legislature put in place since 1958. So supposedly now, we no longer have the ability to prosecute voter fraud in this state unless a local DA refers it to us. Now think about the consequences of that. A local DA being Travis County, Austin,
right,
likely put in there by George Soros, same in Bexar County, which is San Antonio, it's potentially the same in some of these other large metropolitan counties. If you can imagine our state with no check on voter fraud, these guys are not going to prosecute voter fraud. And so people are going to know that you can in these big cities that are Democrat, you can commit voter fraud and you're going to have no consequences. That will open the door, I think, to this state turning blue rather quickly, potentially as soon as November.
And that should disturb everyone across the country, not just here in the great state of Texas, but no matter where you live. A lot of the nationwide elections depend on the outcome in Texas. It's been guaranteed that we're a red state. It's been solid red. We do have a governor race coming up next year. You got Beto O'Rourke coming in here. I imagine he's officially announced that he's going to run. So does this set up for a potential perfect storm?
Yeah, I would have said that Beto's chances of winning were very low.
Right.
Now I'd say he's got a relatively decent chance of winning. If they can they can just encourage people to do some of the things that happen in other states that don't prosecute voter fraud. I think very likely you'll see a much higher incidence of voter fraud. Will they perfect it enough to take the elections in November? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But over time, they will perfect this. And once they control the state, we will never prosecute voter fraud, and then the game's over. We'll be like California, which you can't go fix something that they've rigged the system. They will not unrig it to make it fair.
Yeah. This past year has just really been, when you look back between the COVID, the election, all the things the fallout, the criminal justice system, all the social justice stuff on the street. As we look into 2022, if there was a crystal ball right here, what do you want to happen next year across not only Texas, but across the country?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. One is, obviously I want that heartbeat bill to stay in place. And I think we've got a good chance of that since the Supreme Court left it in place. Second, we've got to figure out some way to deal with voter fraud in the state now that I can't prosecute. That is as fundamental as it gets to survival as a state having legitimate elections. If we can't resolve what the Court of Criminal Appeals just took away, we probably will not survive as a state, not the way we have for so many decades and over 100 years. And then we've got to deal with that issue nationally, because if Texas solves it, but we don't solve it in other states, we have a flawed system that doesn't allow for a constitutional republic. And then, of course, this fight with the Biden administration, this fight is bigger than immigration, it's bigger than the Keystone Pipeline, it's bigger than vaccine mandates. What it really is our constitutional republic going to stand? Are the people going to be able to have an influence on their government, or are we going to be ruled by a ruling oligarchy, a small group of people that tell us what to do because it's going to protect us and take care of us, and they know better how to protect us, and wouldn't we rather trade that freedom for a little more safety? That has happened in many countries. They've traded their freedom for safety. And so there's very few free countries around the world that have the autonomy that we've had in this country for several centuries. Yeah, the eyes of the world are definitely on here in our country. And then lastly, you've got an election coming up next year, which is nice. And I know that it's going to be, this next year is going to be huge. It's important that we put the right people in office, and we've seen, you hear about this red wave, which I don't like saying red wave at all, but I think the average American is going to look at what this country has been like the last year or so, and they're going to let their voices be heard at the voter box. You've got an re-election coming up. How do you feel about it? What's some of the feedback you get from Texans? Because at the end of the day, it's like if you've served the state of Texas. You've served the people of Texas. You've actually served the people of this country. What are you hearing? Yeah, so I'm getting good feedback. My primary election is March 1st. Early voting starts mid-February, so it's pretty important. I'm staying for another term because I truly believe we're at a crisis point, a critical point. I've had a lot of experience taking on these fights. A lot of people are fighting back too. Obviously, I've taken some hits, but the reality is, I think it matters that this experience that I've developed, we're implementing it. We've been very successful both against the Obama administration and even more successful in winning these cases against the Biden administration. I wanted to stay and fight this fight because I feel like we're literally hanging in the balance. And this experience that I've developed and this success that we've developed is, I think, critical to the survival of not just Texas, but the entire country. Yeah, I would agree with you. Of course, you just got back from Mar-a-Lago not too long ago. How was that, hanging out with the president's backyard? Well, I really appreciate him. He's endorsed me. He hosted a fundraiser for me. It was very successful. We had a lot of Texans fly in for that. I wish I could have made it, to be honest with you. No, it was really, he's such an amazing guy, and he's done, I think, as much for the country as any president in my lifetime. And so, I have a lot of respect for him, and I appreciate his support of me. And he said, at that event, he said, "Look, I'm 100% behind you, more than you'll ever even know."
Yeah. And that's like the ultimate endorsement right there. Okay, let's fast forward also to New Year's Eve. We're a couple days away from ringing in a new year. Any plans for you? Staying here? Going somewhere?
Yeah, so it's an unusual year for us because our children, we have married children now, it's their year to be somewhere else. So we just had our Christmas this last weekend. So Angela and I are going to take a little time off before the campaign really kicks back in January 3rd. So we're going to be away for about a week and just relax and try to get ready for what's coming.
Wow. Attorney General Kim Paxton.
Yeah.
Good to end the year on a note with you. I appreciate it.
Thank
you
you
so much for what you're doing for this country.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. We've talked about Mike Lindell over at MyPillow. He is a great partner of this network. Well, so is the folks over at The Simple Scrub. The website is thesimplescrub.com. Now, this cleaning device was developed by the owner. He did it because he saw his grandmother trying to clean the bathtub and she was bending over, hurting her back and her knees. She couldn't do it. So he ran out and invented this product. Now, there's two different versions to this product. There's the shorty and the longer version, and it's made to clean your bathroom, your kitchen, your baseboard, your ceiling fan, your home, your office a little bit easier. Go to the website, thesimplescrub.com. You can look at the variety of products they have on there. They have different cleaning heads that will clean different surfaces. If your shower needs a little bit extra tender care on that, they've got some heavy-duty scrubs, and they got some things to scrub the bottom of your baseboards and your ceiling fans and just really anywhere that needs to be cleaned, and you can do it with ease. The website is thesimplescrub.com, thesimplescrub.com, and as always, put that promo code RSBN at checkout to receive a discount. Now, this company loves America. They love God. They love family. They're America First company. We want you to support them as well. The website is thesimplescrub.com. And like I said, nothing, I said this early before the holidays, nothing says Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's than here's a Simple Scrub. Go clean the house. That's a joke, but not really. All right, thesimplescrub.com, thesimplescrub.com. Go to the website, and in full transparency again, portion of those proceeds goes back to help this network. thesimplescrub.com. Our next guest has traveled across the country. He's picked up trash in just about every major city. He's registered people to vote across this country. He might have the best pair of cowboy boots ever, and he's the recipient of a Ronald Reagan Award at CPAC last year. The one and only Scott Pressler joins us as we look back in this year in review. First of all, the boots. On point.
Thank you. I just polished them. I'm ready to go. I know you're not supposed to tuck them in, but look, if you got a great pair of boots, why don't you want to show them off?
That might be one of the greatest, probably the most common questions that we have people ask us about your boots. And we'll get to your fashion here in a little bit. But if people are not familiar with you, you do have a tremendous story of where you started and what you're doing today. And of course, at the end of this interview, you've got a major announcement that you want to make here on the network. But walk me back, Scott Pressler, years. How did you get involved in politics?
Well, I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. My dad is a retired Navy captain. We moved after 4th grade to Northern Virginia. Went to high school there, went to college, graduated from George Mason University with a 3.63. I want to make it clear, I graduated with honors. But this was after the President Obama recession. I couldn't find a job, but I wasn't going to be a victim. I wasn't going to blame others for my shortcomings. So I started walking dogs for a living to make some money. And then I ended up working at an elementary school. It was during this time at the elementary school that President Obama, he was re-elected for his 2nd term. And it was that night that I created my Twitter account. And in part, you see, I wasn't mad at President Obama. Really, I was mad at me. Where was I knocking on doors? Where was I registering voters? Where was I getting out the vote? And the truth is that I hadn't been an active participant in our constitutional republic. So as opposed to me pointing the finger at other people, I pointed it back at myself. And I started volunteering in Virginia for the Republican Party. I fell in love with it. I met wonderful people, and I felt like it was making a difference. And the reason why I wear my cowboy boots is my first ever political job in history was helping to elect Governor Greg Abbott in the great state of Texas. So I actually got my start in Galveston, in Clear Lake. I lived in Lake City, and that's where I got my first pair of boots, going to Boot Barn. If you live in Texas,
shout out to Boot Barn, right?
Shout out, then you know what I'm talking about. And then after we elected Governor Abbott, we had a great year for Republicans in 2014, taking the Senate. I knew how important it was to take back the White House. And for me, it was always about defeating Hillary Clinton, because Antonin Scalia, he had passed away and the Supreme Court was up for grabs. And I knew how important it was to maintain a conservative majority on the Supreme Court of the United States. So I spent 2 years of my life working to defeat the Hillary Clinton, an accomplishment that we are all very proud of. And I spent the last 4 years of my life, from 2016 to 2020, registering voters, training tens of thousands of volunteers, and cleaning up our cities. You see, I really started as a political activist in voter registration, and then I was inspired by President Trump because he brought up the city of Baltimore. And very much like I was disappointed in myself for allowing President Obama to get reelected by my inaction, when President Trump was talking about Baltimore, I was actually disappointed in society because I saw that everybody, they were quick to judge. They were quick to blame. They were quick to point the finger, but nobody was offering a solution to the problem of trash in Baltimore. So I tweeted out to my followers and said, guys, I'm going to Baltimore. The tweet went viral. Everybody across the country in all 50 states, they wanted to help. And then I was kind of like, uh-oh. So within 6 days, we organized a cleanup in West Baltimore, one of the most dangerous cities in the entire country. And with 200 volunteers, we picked up 12 tons of trash in 12 hours in one day.
And incredible. And I would say this, you organized these trash pickups, and this is not a political event.
No.
You had people come from all sides of
all
life.
walks of life, Democrats, Republicans, libertarians. These are just people that wanted to do good.
Yeah. One of your greatest viral videos is you on the streets of San Francisco, I believe. Let's talk about that real quickly, because you have faced some resistance to what you do because they do associate you as a conservative person. But how do you address the critics on the streets? You might have seen the video that we're talking about, but walk us through what happened.
Well, you know, we did a cleanup in San Francisco, California, and the Lord knows that San Francisco definitely needs some love and attention, shall we say. And we were doing a cleanup and we were protested for picking up trash. And in that viral video, a girl comes up to me and she goes, "What are you doing?" And really, to set the stage for you, we had just been picking up trash. We had just spoken to members of the homeless community. I saw a woman on the street who looked very sick. And for me, that's part of the reason why I'm a Republican, is because I believe in putting the American people first. And I think it's wrong that America takes care of illegal immigrants. I think it's wrong that we take care of the rest of the world, but we don't invest in us. We don't take care of our homeless veterans, our people suffering, living on the streets. And when this girl came up to me, she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're doing an act of love. We're picking up trash." And then it was like she flipped on a dime and she said, "Why aren't you cleaning up your area, your city?" And I was taken aback for a moment, and I gathered my thoughts and I said, "Well, we've done this all across the country: Austin, Atlanta, Baltimore, Chicago, Denver, Decatur, Detroit, Houston, Kenosha, Los Angeles, Miami, Milwaukee, Portland, Pittsburgh, Philly." And something came over me and I just went off on her, because here I am in this emotional state, having seen our homeless Americans that we were not taking care of, sickly on the streets. And I just went off and I said, my dad is a retired Navy captain. His dad, my grandfather, was a retired Navy captain. And I'm doing this because I love my country and I want to put my fellow American citizen first. And because of her accosting me on the streets of San Francisco, that video, thank you, shout out to you if you're watching this, young lady. Because of you, that video has been seen over 14 million times on Facebook alone.
Yeah. And that is pivotal to really getting the point that, you know, picking up trash and cleaning up your city should not be a political issue. It should just be a humanitarian issue of taking care of that. Okay, so we're looking into 2022, obviously. You're going to be very instrumental with going around and registering people to vote. I know in the last couple of days that we spent together, I've learned a lot about what you do, and I've learned a lot about the process. That, you know, if you move, you got to register to vote in your new address. I mean, some of the questions you always throw out. So let's look at this next year. What does that look like for you as we move into these? And you were very instrumental with Youngkin in Virginia. Like, you were crucial of flipping some of those counties. So politically speaking, and we'll get to the big announcement here in just a second, but what are you looking forward to next year?
Oh, I'm so ready, Brian. Well, this year alone, I want people to know we never stopped working after the election in 2020. Literally, we never took a break because I went down to Georgia to help Loeffler and Purdue. And since the beginning of February, I've been traveling the country teaching people not only how to register voters, not only election integrity legislation, but how to run for office, and especially focusing on the state and local level. School board, city council, mayor, state rep, state senate. The goal is to take over at the local level because it doesn't matter who's in charge at the gubernatorial level. Because the Democrats were able to shut us down because they controlled the schools, the cities, and if we harness and wield power at the state and local level, they can never shut us down or tell us what to do again. So by the end of this year alone, in 2021, I will have traveled to 26 states. And here's the goal. I want to be very clear. I understand that CNN, the Democrats, spies, Stacey Abrams, she may be watching this, and I want to make sure that I'm not mincing words. I'm focusing especially on Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Why? Because Arizona, Florida, and Georgia are all trifecta state governments that we have to protect. A trifecta means we got the House, we got the governorship, we got the state Senate. That means that we can pass whatever we want. No vaccine passports, no mask mandates, protect women's sports, fund our police, no COVID-19 forced mandates that are forcing people out of work, union workers, teachers, firefighters, police officers, grocery store workers, truckers. The Republican Party is going to fight to protect jobs. And so we have to protect the governorships of Arizona, Florida, and Georgia, re-electing Governor Ron DeSantis in the great state of Florida, defeating the Stacey Abrams in the state of Georgia, making sure that we are replacing Doug Ducey with a constitutional conservative in the great state of Arizona, and then the plan is we are going to focus on Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Why? Because get this. I know I got a lot to say, Brian. You got to keep up. I'm fast. And so we got the state house and state senate in the states of Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. The goal is to flip the governorships from blue to red in all three of those states, thereby creating 3 trifecta state governments. And then in 2023, when we have those trifectas, we're going to pass election integrity legislation to make sure that we have safe and secure, fair and free elections. Then we are going to pave the way to make sure that we are taking back the White House in 2024. And no, it gets better. It gets even better. Because get this.
Wait, there's more.
In the Commonwealth of Virginia, for example, we now have the governorship thanks to the moms, the concerned parents, the people that their children were forced to stay at home, that they didn't have the choice to have in-person or hybrid learning. Those are the very people that flipped the governorship in the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so now we've got the governorship and the House of Delegates. In 2023, we have an opportunity to flip the state Senate. And in Virginia, if we could also create a trifecta state government, that will be even more leverage into taking back the White House. So I want to make it very clear to the viewer at home, we have a plan of action.
There's the plan of action. You might want to add the state of Texas on that list as well, as we just heard from Attorney General Ken Paxton in regards to election laws and the enforcement of those laws here in Texas. So we definitely got thoughts and prayers on Texas too.
Well, of course, Texas is definitely a priority. But look, we're going to be going against Francis, Beto, Robert, O'Rourke, whatever he chooses to go by nowadays.
Right.
And I think the people of Texas aren't going to be very happy that he wants to come after their Second Amendment right to bear arms. I don't think the people of Texas are going to be very happy that the Democrats are trying to go after our oil, our natural gas, our fossil fuels. Texas is built on natural gas and fossil fuels. And so I think the Democrats are going to have a very difficult time. And I want to say one last thing. The Hispanic community is becoming a backbone of the Republican Party. And we've seen Democrat Hispanic border towns like McAllen, like Hidalgo, Texas, that are coming over. And I want to make a plea to anyone that is watching this right now that the Hispanic community, you are welcome. You have a place within the Republican Party that we believe, like you, in faith and family and freedom, and that the government shouldn't dictate what you can and cannot do. We want you to be able to live your life, to create a business, to create a livelihood for yourself and your families, and you have a place within this GOP.
Okay, I got to ask you before you leave. The good stuff there, by the way. You're like a machine gun with all these facts, and I love it. The Ronald Reagan Award, you were the recipient last year at CPAC. What was that like to get that award? I mean, that's probably the quintessential All-American Patriot Award that you can get.
Absolutely. Well, you know, this hasn't been easy. It's been fun. It's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down. I've had highs, I've had lows. But really, I think the last 5 years, I mean, I've busted my hump. I have definitely worked for this moment, and to receive that award was truly an honor. It was humbling, and it was vindication for every person who has told me that I would fail, every person who told me that I couldn't do it, that I couldn't succeed. And more importantly, you know what I think it was? It was a message to the grassroots in our country that are working tirelessly, that are registering voters, that are in the Texas heat of summer out setting up voter registration booths, that you can do it too. If I'm a dog walker that can start from that humble position and go on to receive the Ronald Reagan Award at CPAC, then you can too.
Yeah. All right. Well, the reason why we're also here is Scott is ready to make a huge announcement. And you've heard all of your past. People are now learning how you got started and where you're at today. But you're here to announce something really big. And it's, you know, in a way, it's a partnership with this network.
Absolutely. Well, I'm very pleased to announce that we are partnering with Right Side Broadcasting Network. And for the next year, in 2022, we're going to have a reality show about my life, my work, and more importantly, everything that's going to go into taking back the House and Senate and having a decisive, overwhelming Republican victory in 2022. And it's going to be cool because I'm sure everybody at home, they think, you know, how do I do this? Do I have a staff? No, I don't. Do I do my own social media? Yes, I do. My own HEA, my own travel. You know, I travel alone. I fly coach. But it will show you the behind the scenes, you know, behind the Wizard of Oz curtain of me staying at people's homes and what's that like, and me cuddling with people's animals across the country. And I think it's going to give people a unique view, not only of my life, but everything that goes into registering voters and how I really do what I do.
Yeah, and if you look at it from a programming point of view, this is an industry first. There has never been a reality show.
Unprecedented. Never before.
For a political activist, and you know, more or less a conservative activist. So this is going to be very special, and so we are just proud to have that opportunity to deliver that content to everyone watching us right now, because we've heard Ken Paxton say it. We've heard some other guests on this show say it. This next year is so crucial in our American history that we secure our elections, and that's almost first and foremost. But also to make sure that our country is going in the right direction.
Yes.
Because we know what happens when socialism takes over. We've seen what happened with that. So that's why I think this show is so important to show people what it's like to walk a day in Scott Pressler's boots. I mean, let's be honest. You've got big boots to fill, and this show's going to do just that.
Only 10 and a half, not that big. Well, and people are craving information on what to do. This is going to help show them what they can do. That the mom, the dad, the business owner, the veteran, you are so powerful. And this is going to help give you an idea of what steps you can take, even despite being a businessman, a family man, a family woman, that you're going to be able to take actions to make sure that our country is going in the right direction. And so I want everyone to please go to theamericanpersistence.com. Now that's persistence with an E. That's very important. theamericanpersistence.com, and please sign up for email updates, and you're going to receive exclusive content on everything that's happening with this new, unprecedented, first-time conservative reality television docuseries.
I love it. And we've got some great people that have been pulled into this project. These are people that come from Hollywood. These are people that come from the big studios. And I don't want to name drop some TV shows and some movies, but it's shows that you're very familiar familiar with, as there's been this mass exodus from Hollywood. It's a new Hollywood, so to say, from conservative, like-minded people. But here is what really it comes down to. It does come down to support, not only sharing the information and going to the website to get more information, but let's be honest, it takes funds to get this thing produced and get this thing off and running. And that's where you guys come in, the viewers, the fans, the followers of Scott Pressler and all that he has done for this country for so long. So I just want to invite everyone, if you like what you've just heard and you like Scott, you like what he's doing for this country, to go on to theamericapersistence.com, because that's where you can get involved in the show through giving, through help financing portions of that show. So I just want to encourage everybody. The business is not free. Like, it takes money to make all of this go around, and we want to be a part of history, a part of broadcast history, to make this a reality, make this show a staple that we can put into our culture, and to show young people, show people of all ages that this is what it's like to fight for America. This is what it's like behind the scenes to fight for America. And I can't think of a better person than Scott Pressler to do just that. So go to theamericanpersistence.com. And make sure I get that website correct. We'll have it on the lower third at the bottom of the screen as well, because it's very important that we all come together to make this this reality happen for you. And I think it can change the political landscape of our country this next year. And the way it's going to be shot, it's kind of pulling the curtain back in a way, is what you see on the road with Scott is very much what you'll see on that next week's episode. They're going to be turned around relatively quick so that we can document what happens with him in these crucial battleground states that he just talked about, and then show it to you. So it's all going to be very relevant. It's not going to be shot a year in advance, and you have to wait a year before it comes out. So this is very timely content. It's very crucial that we get this content out, and we're just happy to have you on this network. And so, of course, we'll have a lot more details will follow as far as how you will be able to watch this reality show. We've got a special website set up just for that you can go to, click, and watch and consume all of these episodes. But right now, he does need your support. So go to the website, give what you can, donate. I know there's some other options on there for corporate sponsorships as well. And I don't want to get into all that because I don't know all the particulars on it. But I just know that we're happy to be able to be a partner in all of this, because without a doubt, Scott Pressler is changing the political landscape right now.
Well, and I just want to give a shout out to Right Side Broadcasting. I mean, you all have been so gracious, and I spent the entire month of October 2020, and almost every single President Trump rally, I had the opportunity to be a co-host with Right Side Broadcasting Network. They are loyal, they are friends, they are family, they're in it for the right reason, and I couldn't be more proud to be partnering with Right Side Broadcasting. And basically, guys, I know some of you are followers of me because of the work that I did as a guest co-host on RSBN. So basically, this is going to be like that on steroids. So get ready.
Get ready. And of course, you stood on those platforms with all of our hosts on those rallies, and that was always a good time. It's always great when you go to a rally that's in a city that's warm, too. I got to say that. I'm tired of freezing up on the platform. So it's good stuff. It's engaging stuff, and we're just glad to be able to provide that content. Because like I said, I've been in broadcasting for a long time, and I have never seen a show like this that is going to be so timely as this show will be. So I just encourage everyone to go to that website, get involved, and by all means, if you're not following Scott on all of your social media platforms, this might be, we spent the last 2-3 days together. A lot of people recognize you, but if someone's saying, hey, this is the first time I've seen this gentleman in front of me, I love his story, how can they follow you on social media?
Well, first they can go to theamericanpersistence.com, persistent with an E, very important, but I'm on everything. Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, Gab, Parler, Instagram, everything is at Scott Pressler, SCOTTPRESLER, 1S.
There you go. Well, the boots, I'm going to have to get some. Apparently,
Yeah, but you see the difference, though. You're showing off the socks. Nobody can see what socks I'm wearing. You're showing the colorful stripes. But yeah, if you're going to join us on theamericanpersistence.com, you're going to get lots of hair iron, you're going to get lots of boots, and lots of voter registration.
Yeah, it's very important. Of course, that's the key. That's the most important thing in all of this is to provide voter registration and to get these people engaged in a vote. So one bit, before we leave, one bit of advice for people in terms of voter registration.
Yes.
The biggest thing you've told me is that if you move, are you registered at your current address? Is that the top one?
Well, you guys know. So here's a really cool tool and tip that you can use to register voters from the comfort of your home while sipping coffee in your pajamas in bed. Here's what I like to do. I go on Twitter to the magnifying glass and I type in, I moved to Florida. Then I click on latest. Anyone in the history of Twitter who's ever typed in, I moved to Florida, I can find the most recent post. Then what I do is I go to their profile, I see who they're following, who's following them, what are they tweeting about, and I literally message them and say, are you registered to vote at your current address? And I include the link to register to vote for the state of Florida. But here's, guys, why it's so important to include, are you registered to vote at your current address? Because if I move from Georgia to Florida and I say to somebody, are you registered to vote at your address? They may say, are you registered to vote? They may say, yes, I'm registered to vote. But unless they register to vote for Florida, they're going to have to drive their behind all the way back to ATL in Atlanta in order to vote. So it's critical. Please register to vote at your current address. If you have any questions, slide into my DMs in the most wholesome of manner, and I'd be happy, it'd be my honor to help register you to vote myself.
There you go. The amazing Scott Pressler. Thanks for joining us on this year-end
you.
special. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
Absolutely.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Next up, Kari Lake, longtime trusted journalist out of Phoenix, Arizona, decided one day she was over the bias reporting and fake news and decided to do something about it. Well, she decided to run for governor in the great state of Arizona. And since her announcement, her campaign has taken off. I had a chance to sit down with her and talk about her campaign and her plans for the state of Arizona. This past year has been absolutely amazing for you. I mean, so much has transpired. Now, walk us back to how you go from sitting on the anchor desk to now running for governor in the great state of Arizona.
This past year is like, boom, mind blowing. You think of that little emoji where the brain, mind's blowing. A year ago, I knew at that point I could no longer do the job of being a modern day journalist. I grew up, we kind of grew up at the same time, going through journalism school, learning how to be a journalist, was presenting the facts, both sides. Sometimes there's 3 sides or 4 sides of a story, but you keep your opinion to yourself. And it had gone so over the top, activist, that was bothering me, but I was still able to kind of hold the line and keep it steady. And then COVID struck, and I realized that there was just an agenda, and it was the whole corporate media pushing an agenda, a narrative to divide people, to hurt people, not to help people. And I realized that I didn't want to take part in that. And then the election hit, and I thought, wow, this thing's going off the cliff, and I don't want to be part of it anymore. And so I stepped away. I had no idea that when I put the video out, telling the viewers of Arizona, who I'd covered for 27 years and who I loved this state, I wanted them to know why I was leaving. I wasn't just leaving because I wanted to retire. I was resigning in protest to what the media had become, which was fake news. It had become nothing more than propaganda that was meant to divide us and hurt our communities and hurt people. And so I put that video out, and I didn't realize it would have such a huge effect on people. And it went viral immediately, and I started having Arizonans reach out and say, thank you so much for covering us so fairly. Would you consider running for office? We need honest politicians.
And what was the first thing that came in your mind when they said that?
No, I'm not running for, I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to go from, working in the corrupt news to the even more corrupt world of politics. But it wasn't just one person. It was dozens upon dozens. One night, my husband and I were walking around the neighborhood, and a car pulled up, stopped, reversed, rolled the windows down, and I thought, okay, what's going on here? And the guy said, loved watching you. You need to run for office. We need honest people this is where the electorate is right now. They want honest people, real people running for office. And so I thought about it, and I thought, maybe this is God's calling for me. He gave me the courage to walk away. I felt that the work had become immoral and a disservice. Rather than serving the community, being in journalism became a disservice to the community. And I thought, God is tapping me on the shoulder, telling me, you need to consider this. So I did.
Well, God is tapping a lot of people on the shoulder right now because your poll numbers are just absolutely out of this world.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
I'm so excited. I mean, we started polling before we even ran, because I made the mistake. I'm a novice at politics. I've never run for office before. I'm a citizen journalist, as Ronald Reagan called it. And so I thought, I was considering running. I bought up my domain name. It's www.karilake.com.
It was available.
Yeah, it was available. But apparently people out there watched that thing. They watch it and they said, Kari Lake bought up Kari Lake for governor. I bought a bunch of them up just in case. And they caught wind of that, and that became a story. So the pollsters out there started polling me before I had even made the decision whether I wanted to run. And we were already doing really well in the polls before we even ran. Once we announced June 1st, we just took off. It was like a rocket ship. And our poll numbers have grown. In the last month, we grew 10 points. We're at 40
It was almost
points.
as if they were prescient and they
Our
could see the
closest
future.
competitors down
And they
at
prepared
9.
for this day.
The other ones
And
are
they
dropping
knew that
like
our
a
federal
rock. And it's
government
because
would become unruly,
the people of
unmanageable,
Arizona, and I think the
and
people
fail
of
at
this
their
country,
duties. And so
want
they stated
real
it all
people
right
running
there
for
in the
office.
US
We're tired of
Constitution.
the career
And we're gonna do
politicians,
that. We're gonna
the
invoke
lifelong
basically invoke
bureaucrats,
our
the
state
lobbyist
war powers.
lawyers, the has-beens,
Because we
running
have to.
over and over and over again.
Joe Biden's
and we
not
elect
doing it.
them, and we get the same results. And we don't want that anymore.
Let's talk about the ultimate endorsement. President Trump himself has endorsed you for your campaign. Walk me back to you get a phone call, you get an email. I mean, how did
my
this
gosh.
happen?
Well, I was so honored to cover President Trump. I thought he was the best president of our lifetime. And as a journalist, I recognized how amazing it was to cover a president like this, who was making such a difference and changing the world in such a big way. I thought it was the honor of my lifetime to cover a president like that. But everyone around me in the world of journalism and the fake news was losing their mind over him. They missed out on an opportunity to cover an amazing president who did great things, big things for us, put America first. So I loved covering him. He gave me 2 exclusive interviews as a
Well,
journalist.
you've got the letter right here.
And then when I announce I'm running, he comes to town to do a rally. And I got a really amazing standing ovation and shout out. And I think he was impressed by that. I know he was, because he told me that. So he invited us to Trump Tower. He told me that we have a really great movement. He wants to support us. And then when I got this, I gotta share it.
Any better than that?
You know what I love though? He's such a smart man. He knows what's important to people. He recognized the fake news media. He recognized what a danger that was to our country. He talks about crime. He talks about our border, our Second Amendment, military vets, and election integrity. And he knows that I'm strong on those issues because I care about Arizona. So this is one of the greatest things ever. I got this. It came to me. He FedExed it to me, and I remember I was sitting here eating dinner with my husband right here at our kitchen table. And when I got this, I couldn't even I was stunned when I got this. So
It
so
says run hard. I think that's really interesting because he was a candidate at that time in 2016 and 2020
Yeah.
who just absolutely ran 100 miles an hour.
And we're doing that.
Didn't stop.
We're doing that. I don't know how to be a candidate because I'm not a politician. I mean, I guess I am now. So I just covered it like I was covering the biggest breaking news story of my lifetime. And you and I can relate to that. You show up, news breaks, and you go. The news story, you keep on that until the news story's over. And so I thought it was normal to do 4, 5, 6 events in a day. And then somebody in politics said, did I hear you right? Did you say you did 4 events today or 5 events? And I go, yeah. They said, that's what you do in the last days before the general election. And we've been running that way since we started. I think in the last 24, 30 hours, we did at least
You're
6.
nonstop.
Yeah, we were at the border. We were in Tucson. We did, I think, 4 or 5 stops at the border. We did a live program with RSBN. And then we busted a move home to the Valley, and we did a Tea Party event for them tonight. So, and now it's, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night,
And we're
11.
here doing some more.
And we're doing an interview.
I'm keeping you up late
Yes.
at night. you've called out the media, not just local media, obviously, but the mainstream media, and a lot of your videos, and you do interviews with MSNBC and CNN. You don't back down from those guys. How do you deal with it? I try to watch those news networks just to stay involved in what they're saying, but how do you personally deal with the attacks that the mainstream media is launching towards you? And as you know, as we get closer to 2022, it's just going to get more intense.
It's going to get bad. It's going to get really bad. I started off first thinking I don't want to talk to them. I refuse to talk to them because they're so crooked. And then I thought, well, if I don't talk to them, the public won't get my story. So I agreed to do an interview with somebody, and they asked the same question over and over and over for 5 minutes. I said, I'll give you 5 minutes of time. I was astounded. The same question they asked 5 or 6 different times.
Right.
I answered it every time, and they kept asking it. So I don't know, something inside of me said, you got to expose what these people are doing. And I guess I hit him with my best shot.
We've got a great video. You're
Yeah.
sledgehammering TVs and things like that.
But I know how they work. I know how they operate. They never cover stories on conservatives fairly. Mm-hmm. They start off from the mode where they already don't like them and they want them to fail. I think our story is a pretty great story. I'm a regular person. I'm a mom. I'm the wife of a small business owner. I covered this state for 27 years. Mm-hmm. Now, if I were a journalist covering me or somebody like me, I would say, this is an amazing story. She walked away from a lucrative career because she's principled and she has integrity, and now she wants to run for office. There's no bias in that. That's just stating the facts. Mm-hmm. But immediately, because I'm a conservative and because I am outspoken and I support President Trump, they felt they had to attack me and they lie about me. I think it was Socrates who said 2,500 years ago, give or take 100 years, when you've lost the battle, you resort to slander. Mm. And that's what the media has done. They've lost the battle, and all they can do, all they have left in them is to slander, lie, and try to destroy people. The good news is, Brian, the public's onto it. No one's watching.
They're onto it.
I got somebody who I used to work with slipped me some of the overnight ratings. And here we have a market in Phoenix. It covers,
sizable market.
It covers 85% of Arizona.
Right.
It's one of the greatest TV markets because it pretty much covers the whole state, which is why I've got such great name recognition and name ID. And it reaches more than 6 million people. And I got the overnight ratings, and the number one newscast at 5 p.m. reached 6,500 people. One of the news stations, and their 4 to 5 p.m. hour, had 0 viewers. Mm. People aren't watching anymore.
They're turning it off.
And they're afraid. And that's why they've got some of these liberal politicians who are now trying to push forth legislation to take our tax money and prop them up, which is appalling.
Okay, so let's fast forward to November 2022. What's your first day in office? What do you intend to do to help Arizona get back in the right direction?
We have a laundry list of things that need to be done. You know, our government is failing us, our federal government. It's become so bloated. They've taken over every aspect. They're trying to control our lives, but they're failing at the most important thing, which is stated in the U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 4. It's the Guarantee Clause, which is protecting us states from invasion. And I don't care if you're Democrat, Independent, Republican, not affiliated, you cannot deny that what's happening at our border is an invasion of this country. And our federal government is failing so miserably. So the day I take the oath of office, I'll have my hand on the Bible, my husband will be standing there with me. And while the press, the fake news is assembled, I will issue a declaration of invasion. We have an invasion at our border. We saw it today. We know what's happening. And this is Article 1, Section 10. Our founding fathers, it was almost as if they were prescient and they could see the future. And they prepared for this day. And they knew that our federal government would become unruly, unmanageable, and fail at their duties. And so they stated it all right there in the U.S. Constitution. And we're going to do that. We're going to basically invoke our state war powers because we have to. Joe Biden's not doing it. He's opened up the border. We saw today how the fence, the wall, the beautiful President Trump
Big, beautiful wall.
Big, beautiful wall was built in an area that, as a reporter, when I was covering this, I remember hearing experts saying, it's impossible. We can't build that wall. It's too mountainous. It's impossible. We saw it today. It was built. We were in a mountainous region today. So the media lied to us. It is possible to build the wall, and the wall does protect us. And, You know, governors of each state are actually the commander-in-chief of the National Guard of that state. And we need to ask the other states to send their National Guard in to these border states and help protect us, and form an interstate compact with other states that we take on protecting our border, because the federal government's not doing it. And we're going to start a fight with the federal government, and they're going to come back and fight back. But until we do that, we will never have our state protected. And we need someone who's going to fight for this state, and we haven't had that for a long time.
Yeah. Kari Lake for governor in the great state of Arizona. Sounds pretty good.
I'm excited about it.
Got a good ring to it.
It does have a good ring to it. And, you know, we talked about this, and I have this hanging in my house. I'm so excited about it. But as much as I love President Trump, the most important endorsement is the people of Arizona. I want to know that when my days are over, that when I'm looking at my kids at the end of my days, they'll look at me and say, my mom was a great mom. My grandma was a great mom, or great grandma. Mm-hmm. And she cared about us, and she cared about the state. And I want my fellow citizens to say she really cared about Arizona. That's why I'm doing this. There's no money in politics if it's done honestly. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of people making money in politics, and that's usually a big red flag that there's some corruption. I'm just doing this because I love Arizona. I don't want to have to rent a U-Haul in 2022 after the election and try to find a red state, a conservative state, a good, honest state. And we're running out of these states where freedom rings. So I'm going to do everything in my power, Brian, to save Arizona and make sure that freedom rings here.
Fist bump on freedom ring. I like that. Kari Lake for governor of Arizona.
Thank you, Brian.
And finally, to our very special guest tonight, to be completely transparent with you, I've had a difficulty writing this intro as I can never find the exact words to show our appreciation and honor for this man. From the day he rode down the escalator in New York City announcing his
Thank you, Brian.
And finally, to our very special guest tonight, to be completely transparent with you, I've had a difficulty writing this intro as I can never find the exact words to show our appreciation and honor for this man. From the day he rode down the escalator in New York City announcing his run for presidency, we knew at that time Donald J. Trump was the person to lead this great nation. If it wasn't for President Trump, this network would not even exist. That's as simple as that. We built RSBN around President Trump. His love of country and his commitment to serve others is like no other. Ladies and gentlemen, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. That was really a beautiful introduction. I'm very honored by it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're blessed to have you on the show today. So much to talk about. Of course, 2021 was an historic year in our country. So many things hitting the news cycle, from COVID to immigration to foreign policy. But I want to jump right quickly into these vaccine mandates that have been pushed down from the Biden administration, and get your thoughts on what is the future of, medical freedom here in this country.
Well, the mandates are terrible. It's a disgrace what's happening. I think that's one of the primary reasons that our economy is doing so horribly. You can't get jobs. People having businesses, small businesses, they're going out of business because they can't get anybody to work. And I think the mandates are a big, big problem in this country, and it has a lot to do with how badly we're doing economically.
So we even saw Dr. Fauci kind of doubling down, suggesting we should have some type of vaccine passport to even take domestic flights. I mean, how would that work out? And even talk about disrupting the economy. I would imagine the airlines would see a pushback from that.
Well, every business would, and I just think that if you look at him, I worked with him for a period of time. He wasn't nearly a big factor like he is now under the Biden administration. I did what I wanted to do. As you know, I closed our country to China and to Europe, which was very important at the time, and a lot of lives were saved by what I did. And he wanted to keep it open. Then he realized 4 months later, he said I was right, and I saved a lot of lives. But It's crazy if he's talking that way about mandates. The mandates are really very, very harmful for our country. And you see what's happening with all of the things having to do with business. People are mandated and they're not able to go work, and even if they want to, the mandates are a disaster, and they've proven to be a disaster. It was obvious that was going to happen, and there are other problems with it. If people have religious problems, they have medical problems with it. They have a lot of different difficulties, but the mandates are bad, and I say it strongly. I'm very proud of the vaccines. We got it done, as you know, Brian. We got it done very rapidly in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years, and they wouldn't come up, most likely wouldn't have come up with the right answer. And we have 3 of them, great ones and great therapeutics. We got a lot of it done, but the mandates are horrible.
Yeah, and we were there with you at the White House for Operation Warp Speed. Like you said, you rolled those vaccines out in record time. So,
well, we saved millions of lives worldwide. Don't forget, in 1917, 100 million people, as many as maybe 50 to 100, but 100 million people probably died from the horrible Spanish flu. I think we would have been in a very similar position, 50 to 100, if we didn't have the vaccines, all over the world. Mm-hmm. And in the United States, millions and millions more people would have died. It would have been a disaster. So we're very proud of the vaccines, but the mandates should not be they're trying to enforce these mandates, and it's so bad for people and for our country and so bad for business.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift our attention, if we could, real quickly to the economy and the disaster that we are under right now. We have high gas prices, food costs are up. I mean, the Biden administration could have just put you on cruise control, the economy that you set up, and we would be just fine. How do we turn this economy around? Because right now, what I'm seeing, President Trump, is the middle and lower class right now are getting killed.
Yeah, they are getting killed by inflation. And I'll tell you, the country is being absolutely just decimated by what's happening at the border. And in terms of an embarrassment, our withdrawal, the way they withdrew, and I was all for it. I'm the one that got us down to 2,500 soldiers. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. It was so horrible. And China and Iran and Russia and North Korea and all of them, they're all watching that, and they feel much different than they did prior to that. They are laughing. The world is laughing at our country. But all they had to do is go in and go on vacation. The southern border was stronger than it ever had been. It had never been so strong. And drug trafficking was way, way down. It was down by 58% at the southern border because they couldn't get the drugs in. Now drugs are up at a level that nobody's seen them. I've heard as many as 6-7 times more than the highest level ever. Drugs are pouring in. Human trafficking is going rampant. We had a lot of it, way, way down to levels that we've never seen before. And all they had to do is go on vacation, let them finish the wall. It would have taken 3 to 4 weeks. It was ready to be finished and closed up. And it took 2.5 years to start it because we had to win 11 different lawsuits. So it's sad, but just go to the beach. And if they went to the beach and relaxed, we would have a far different country right now.
Yes, sir. And I was down at the border here in Texas with Attorney General Ken Paxton as he toured sections of it. And I was out in Arizona with gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake, who you endorse.
Right.
And she said on day one.
They're both doing great, by the way. They're both great.
Yes, sir.
Ken has been incredible as the Attorney General. And Kari Lake, I think she's going to win big. She's fantastic. She has done. I endorse both of them, by the way, I should tell you. But yes, I endorse them for a reason. She's doing great in Arizona. She's going to, I think she's going to win big. She's got a great way. She loves the people, loves the state, and she wants border protection and drug protection.
Yeah, law and order. What a crazy notion, right?
She wants law and order. What a terrible thing, isn't it? It's like you say law and order, and they say, "Oh, that's not politically correct." But that'll change as these killings keep going on. You look at New York and Chicago and different places. What's happening? It'll all change.
Let's turn our attention over to Truth Social. I was with you in Bedminster and that beautiful golf course you have in New Jersey when you launched your big tech lawsuit against Google and YouTube and other social media platforms. But now you've got your own platform rolling out. Can you give us a preview of what Truth Social looks like and the timeline when we can expect to see it?
Well, it's going to give people a voice, and all people. We want liberal, we want conservative, but it's going to give conservatives a voice without being terminated. Thousands and thousands have been terminated off of a very boring Twitter. Twitter's so boring now, people are just terminating themselves. They're just getting off it. But thousands and thousands of people were terminated, and now others are getting off, and the liberals are on there. They have nothing to talk about. You know, they don't have Trump to fight. They don't have anybody to fight. And we're giving conservatives a voice. At the same time, you know, let it be known we want everybody on there, because that's the only way it's going to be exciting. And the way you're going to get the word out is through debate, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we had. But then they terminated. And, you know, they have total killers on. It's interesting with Facebook and Twitter and all of them. They have, you know, heads of countries that I know, all of them. They have killers. They have some of these people you don't want, and they're on Twitter. But the president of the United States that got 75 million votes is not on Twitter. It's sort of interesting. It's the largest number of votes ever gotten by a sitting president, and that person's not on Twitter for no reason whatsoever. But it's fun. And Facebook, by the way. Mm-hmm. And people ought to drop off them. They ought to drop off. You'll show them something if you do. It's disgraceful. So it's going to be a way of hearing what you have to say, Brian, what other people have to say, and I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really great.
I think it's going to take off. All right. If you could, Mr. President, paint me a picture, November 2022. How do these primaries look, in your opinion, and how apart are you going to be of all these really important races that we're going to see?
Well, I'm going to be a big part, and the Democrats are doing so badly now, and they're so vicious with all of their, you know, AGs all over the country and district attorneys, all of these people, and, you know, not only in Washington, and they fight such a vicious, disgusting battle. I don't think the people are going to take it anymore, what they do to people. And then you see what's happening with their people with such crimes and criminality, and nothing happens. It's a disgrace. So I really think you're going to have a big, people are just tired of it. I think you're going to have a tremendous Republican victory in 22. And I think you're going to have a tremendous Republican victory for that beautiful White House. It happens to be a White House called the White House. You're going to have a great victory in 24, too. I really think we have a chance of taking back not only the House, but the Senate in 22. Big chance.
Do you plan on hitting the road with some of these candidates, throwing these famous? Yeah.
I've done very well with endorsements. The endorsements mean a lot, it seems. And I think we're 152 or 158, I think now, and 2. You know, we've won 158 and 2 losses, which tells you that people are waiting. And, you know, people go up by 50%, 60%, 30%, massive numbers. So it's very important. But no, I'll be helping a lot of the very good people get elected, both in the House and in the Senate.
Yeah, we can't wait for that, because you are a big part of our network showing all of these rallies. And Mr. President, I don't think we've missed a single rally since 2016 or any type of press conference that the media was invited to cover. So we're a big part of that, and we can't wait to get
Well, I just want to tell you, you guys have been unbelievable. The whole thing with Right Side has been an incredible relationship. By the way, it's been very good for you also, because you're getting higher ratings than these, mainstream media people that you've been hearing about for so many years. Right Side has been so great, and we're very thankful for it. Hence, I do an interview with you, and I won't do them with others. You know, it's like incredible. But the job you've done, and it's been mutual, in all fairness, because I see you're getting tremendous numbers. But it's really an honor to do business with you guys. Well, really good.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. We were blessed. My final question, and it's the most asked question I personally get, Mr. President, and the most asked question on our network is, will we see a Trump ticket in 2024? I'm not expecting the straight up yes answer, but I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, look, our country is going to hell. We've never been lower, I think, in terms of esteem and what other countries and their leaders think about us. We've never been at a point like this. They laugh at us. They can't believe what's happening to our country. We never talk about greatness. We talk about constantly the environment. You know, we had one of the cleanest years ever on air and water my final year. It was absolutely, beautiful. It was sterling. But they don't talk about greatness anymore. They talk about anything but. Our country has to come back. I think you're going to be very happy. I won't make a comment now because of campaign finance rules and regulations, but I'm not allowed to, or everything changes. You have to go to a whole different status. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. But I think you're going to be very happy. I think Right Side's going to be very happy, and I really appreciate Right Side. And I appreciate you, Brian.
I appreciate that, Mr. President. And I want to just extend this offer to you. This network is your network, and we want to push all of our resources behind any of your messaging, your rallies, and we got to get you back in the White House in 2024. And just know that we're all praying for you and your entire family, because we know the sacrifice that you have made for the American people.
Well, I have. The good news is their ratings of like CNN and MSDNC, which is just a terrible group of people. That whole NBC group and Comcast group, these are terrible people, terrible human beings. They're just disgusting. And I tell you what, their ratings are down the tubes. Yeah. Nobody watches them anymore. It's incredible how their ratings have gone down. CNN is like a joke, and the reason is they have no credibility anymore. They've been calling Russia for years. They've been calling all of these hoaxes, the Mueller hoax, all of it, the impeachment hoaxes. They have no credibility, and NBC, and you take a look at the numbers. It's I call it MSDNC, Democratic National Committee. MSDNC and CNN, their numbers are down the tubes, and that's a good thing. But these are bad people over at Comcast.
Yeah, and there's no accountability on that either. They absolutely don't.
No, there's not.
Yeah,
no, there's not. But hopefully there will be.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you very much, and let us be the first to tell you Happy New Year, Mr. President. We love you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Brian, you too, and have a good time, and I'll see you soon. I'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great way to end the show. President Trump weighing in on some topics and also providing us with a little bit of hope going into 2022. We want to encourage everybody to go to our website, rsbnetwork.com. That's rsbnetwork.com. Sign up for our newsletter. You can also donate there to the network on that site. We appreciate all of your donations there as well. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube. It's all there. You can follow me as well at Brian Glenn TV across the board on all of my social media platforms as well. So let me be the first person to wish you guys a very happy new year, and let's continue to pray for this country and pray for one another. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.